Why does the Air Force allow even the nastiest call signs? Every fighter jet pilot must have a call sign. If you are not getting one, it means you're weird, or no one likes you enough to give you one. The command allows call signs because it is part of tradition. What could be better than giving a nasty or offensive lifelong nickname to your friend? Here are a few good ones. A guy whose surname was Bright got the call sign Not So during flight school. Pilot Not So Bright. A new trainee showed up to his first flight wearing Naruto gloves. 14 years later, he's still known around as Mittens. One pilot got the name Harpoon during flight school because he would frequently end up connecting with some big ladies in bars. On the same note, Pig Ducker was too offensive and had to be changed. His new call sign became Hog Rider. Intake was given to a pilot who had the largest nose you had ever seen. A Navy F-18 pilot had stomach issues in flight and crapped in his flight suit a couple of times. He missed the landing and had to go around. That's how he got the name STAB. Shat twice and bolted. Some dude badly wanted the call sign Hand of God, but everyone would just say hand and follow with job instead. How do fighter jet pilots get their call signs? Forget the Top Gun horse crap where everyone had cool call signs like Viper or Iceman. The reality is quite different. You have your Pigpen, Crash, Torch, and many more. The vast majority of the time, it is something that happened to you or something stupid you did. Your call sign gets assigned to you, and you better not refuse it, or you will get a worse one. If you drink some flaming drinks at the bar and burn your face, you are called Torch. If you destroy a tire while landing, you become Bam Bam. If a guy comes to you at the bar and says, "I like those sweet pants," you become Pants. Food poisoning that results in taking the biggest number 2 in your flight suit while flying an F-14, and you are Pigpen now, and your cockpit is set up like this the next day. There was a guy who was a year ahead of his class in Naval Academy. He and his instructor pilot had intentionally put their plane into a spin for training purposes, but couldn't recover by the minimum altitude allowed, so they ejected. The instructor was okay. The trainee got knocked out on the ejection and came down on a pine tree, with part of the tree spearing his thigh. He's lucky he survived. His call sign? Kebab. How do Navy pilots earn their call signs? No one gets a cool call sign. The best ones are usually a result of something dumb or noteworthy done by that pilot. If you forget to disable the parking brake before a catapult shot, the catapult wins, destroying both main landing gear tires. Your call sign will be skid mark because of the marks left on the runway. My favorite call sign story involves a now infamous Navy pilot. Most pilots carry piddle packs, which is basically a super absorbent gel in a plastic bag, so when nature calls, they can relieve themselves in flight. One day, this pilot lands after a normal flight. As he gets out, everyone is really excited to see him. Some people give him a high five. The plane captain shakes his hand vigorously as he welcomes him back. The pilot is baffled at the warm reception. Finally, he arrives in his room, where he starts taking off layers of flight gear, and, he had used the piddle pack in flight and forgot to, let's say, raise his landing gear. His junk had been hanging out in the wind for all to see, from the time he left the jet until now. His call sign became Doofus, which stands for Duck Out on Flight Deck, Unusually Small. Why should you not complain about your call sign? In the Air Force, a call sign is more important than your name. Other aviators will pick one for you, and it will be a nasty one. If you say no to a call sign, you will get an even worse one. Other aviators were coming up with a call sign for a brand new pilot. There were plays on his name or the fact that he was very thin, like Tor, short for Skeletor. They also discussed the call sign Worm. The pilot, almost screaming, said, "I did not work so hard to fly an F-16 to be called Worm." You guessed it. He instantly became Worm. If you go supersonic somewhere where you should not have and break some windows, you are now Boomer. If it is your round at the bar to buy and you have no money, you are now forever Mooch. I knew one pilot who insisted he be called Duke. The whole squadron refused because he was no John Wayne. The squadron commander settled the argument by naming him Duchess. A new Naval Academy student had the opportunity to fly in an F-5 fighter jet and practice basic fighter maneuvers. During his first flight ever, he had a mid-air collision and had to eject from the jet. When he returned to the base, he was given the call sign O-Tool, 1 takeoff, 0 landings. Is this the smartest call sign move ever? Pilots should never ask for nicknames because the call sign curse is real. A Marine Corps pilot finished her training and asked for a call sign. On her first solo flight, she had an issue with her flight suit and somehow relieved herself on the controls and was awarded the flippant call sign Bad Dog. A guy named Jeff became a squadron commander and announced to the team that it was time for him to get a call sign. It was asking for trouble. There were many funny, crude, or downright despicable suggestions. One pilot was laughing to himself in the corner. Others asked him what he was laughing about. He recommended that the commander's call sign be Jeff, just Jeff, because it would bother the commander the most, especially for a guy who had waited his entire career to have his very own call sign. It was brilliant because pilots could not call superiors by their names. He would become Jeff, and he would hate having a call sign that was not really a call sign at all. Pure evil genius. It was so simple that it was almost insulting. Video. You might think that there is awesome combat video of this pilot, sort of. He received his call sign when a personal video of him and his girlfriend made the rounds around the the base. Fighter jet pilots' call signs are meant to be humbling at best. At worst, they are straight up offensive. But when you get one, it usually stays with you for life. It cannot be fun to say, call sign Alf. And when someone asks why, you say it is short for annoying little duck. Here are some of my favorites, starting from most reasonable to ridiculous. A pilot clipped a deer that had run onto the runway on takeoff with his landing gear and smeared it across the runway on landing. Call sign Bambi. A person who has a stutter is called Remix. If you are bad at air-to-air refueling and you barely finish a mission with almost no fuel, your call sign is Fumes. Dingle had the last name Barry. Iris. I require intense supervision. Awarded to a pilot who was getting into a lot of danger. Bob, for baby on board, for a small pilot. Smote. Shit myself over Afghanistan. Twice. Pretty self-explanatory. Cool call signs have the worst origins. Call sign legend sounds cool, but the pilot earned the nickname in flight school after failing and having to retake a test no other previous pilot had in history. Please follow and do not be a phantom. Watching without following. Can a call sign go too far? You can be the best thing that happened to aviation, but your fellow aviators would still find a way to give you a call sign that you hate. For some, they go too far. An officer was giving a brief to her crew before a flight. It was supposed to be a long 8-hour flight, so the guys from her crew went and bought some sandwiches. The officer lost her mind because of the lettuce in everyone's sandwiches. She said that lettuce was on a list of prohibited flora. Her crew laughed it off as they thought it was a joke. But she was serious and concerned about being arrested for lettuce at the airport. She made all of them open their sandwiches and throw the lettuce away. She was awarded the call sign Jared after that Subway guy. A guy who somehow managed to pass aviation school but really lacked in the mental department got a call sign Wedge, as a wedge is the simplest tool known to man. It was the first month of flying solo for this young aviator. Suddenly, he felt incredible pain below the belt. He stopped the mission and went back to the aircraft carrier and managed to land. He was quickly moved to a hospital. His ping-pongs had somehow twisted and one developed a small puncture. He got a cool call sign Twister that he hates, as it reminds him of the worst day of his life. How do fighter jet pilots get their bad call signs? Forget the Top Gun BS where everyone had cool call signs like Viper or Wolfman. In reality, your call sign will be bad. It will be your biggest screw-up or your worst quality. And why? Just because it's funny and other pilots are dicks. A new Canadian fighter pilot, full of hopes and dreams of a cool call sign, was being trained. His surname was Jobin, so obviously other pilots gave him Hand as his call sign. So he is now Hand and Jobin. If your first name happens to be Ed, well, then you're special ed. A new trainee wanted to learn as much as he could about his jet, so he got a ground crew headset on him to learn the launch procedure. Another pilot started his jet and asked, "Hey chief, did you check the intakes?" The trainee walked to the intakes while they were running and stuck his whole head inside the running intakes. He replied, "Yep, all clear." He is forever known as Danger Zone. An experienced pilot was commenting about his first catapult takeoff from an aircraft carrier when he said to the other pilots, "I was screaming like a girl going down the deck." He became slag, that's all it took. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe so I can make videos like these.